Hey, Brookside. As your pastor, I knew we needed to respond to the racial crisis that has swept our nation over the last couple of weeks. But I wanted to make sure that we responded in the right way. We are not interested in a hasty reaction. What we're interested in is a long-term solution. Because this is not the first time we've experienced this injustice, and unfortunately, it will not be the last. In fact, every one of us could cite a lengthy list of injustices that we can think of off the top of our heads in just our lifetimes alone. And the frustrating thing is not just the injustice. The frustrating thing is we can't seem to find a solution for it. And so every time an injustice happens, the anger and frustration build and only continues to divide us. And so we as the church feel we need to be part of a long-term solution. Part of it is recognizing the solution does not lie in more legislation. I mean, really, how's that worked out for us over the course of history? Because we believe the solution because the problem doesn't lie in legislation, the problem lies in our hearts, because that's where hatred and bigotry live. And whenever those things express themselves in public, it takes the form almost always in the form of injustice. But here's the good news. We have in our hands this thing called the gospel. This thing that Jesus brought with him that brings hope and life and healing and freedom and peace to everyone who embraces it. And because we believe racial injustice is a matter not of legislation, but a matter of the heart, the gospel alone is the only thing that can address the condition and posture of the heart. The gospel is what can take a heart of hatred and turn it into a heart of love. The gospel can take a heart of bigotry and turn it into a heart of bridge building. That's the power of the gospel, and that's what we have in our hands. And so as followers of Jesus, we have an obligation to stand on whatever platform we have and speak against injustice with the gospel so that we can be a part of a long-term solution to all of this injustice we see happening. In fact, the book of Proverbs encourages us to do this. It simply says this: speak up for those who can't speak for themselves, to ensure justice for those who are being crushed. Guys, racism crushes people. Injustice crushes people. And if you're not convinced, just have a conversation with an African-American friend and you will be convinced. And when you read the Gospels in the Bible, Jesus had conversations with people all the time who were crushed by racism and injustice. And every time he did, he brought hope and love and peace and healing and a future to those. And every time he talked with people who brought injustice onto other people, he always tried to change the heart of a person in order to change the condition. This is what Jesus did all the time. And so we have an opportunity to stand in solidarity with Jesus, to walk alongside with him, to fight with him in his fight against injustice. In fact, what's so cool is Jesus said this is a big reason that he came. He says it this way in Luke chapter 4, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoner and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free." Guys, this is our opportunity to stand with Jesus, to move forward with a solution, not more legislation, but with a heart solution. You know, injustice stands as a direct assault against the nature of God. You know why? Because the scriptures say that God himself is love. God is love. And he hates it when people are broken and hurt by injustice. And it ought to break our hearts as well. And at Brookside it does. And so this is why we stand ready to be a part of a long-term solution than just a hasty reaction. I love what Paul says. He says this in Romans chapter 12 as part of our solution. Listen to what he says. "Weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with one another. Never repay evil with evil, and live in such a way that everyone can see that you are honorable. And do whatever you can to live at peace with one another." Guys, we have an opportunity here. I love what my friend says. He says this: we have a choice. We get to be racists, or we can be reconcilers. We can be bigots, or we can be bridge builders. We have that choice. But I love what Martin Luther King Jr. says best. He says it this way: injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So guys, we wanted to provide you some opportunities for long-term solution. Some of these suggestions are things you can do right now for yourself and for your family, but there's also some suggestions and opportunities where your church can do things for you to help you in this process. Number one, let me talk about some things you can do right now for yourself and for your family. Number one, Whenever injustice happens, let me encourage you to sit down in the pain of other people who are hurt and broken by injustice. Scripture tells us to bear the burdens of other people. And so it's not a call, it's not a time to distance ourselves or disengage. It's a time to sit down with other people in their pain and help bear that burden. Number 2, whenever injustice happens, let me encourage you to avoid vilifying anybody. We're going to put our hope in the justice system, the police, the authorities to determine where wrongdoing was. That's not our job. That's not a responsibility. Our job is to bring the gospel to everybody, and that does not include villainizing anybody. Number 3, whenever justice happens, make sure you use your voice and your platform to speak out against it wherever it happens. Wherever it happens. Number 4, let me encourage you with this. Listen to learn, not to refute. It's very easy for us to say, here's my opinion, and then stand on that. But oftentimes when we refute other people based upon our own opinion, it doesn't do anything to bridge the gap or to build relationships. So listen to learn from each other, not to refute each other. And then lastly, number 5, most importantly, remember the gospel. As followers of Jesus, we stand on the gospel and not on any other platform when we engage issues of injustice. Those are some things that you can do right now for yourself and for your family, but let me encourage you, we have some opportunities coming so that your church can do things for you. So I've been in conversation with the staff about opportunities and platforms that we can provide for you to help carry this discussion. We're going to create some community life groups. We're going to create some podcasts so that we can be a part of a long-term solution. So please keep your eyes and your ears open to those opportunities as we roll them out in the very near future. But we want to be a part of the solution, and we hope that you'll come alongside with us to be part of that solution too. Thanks for being with us today. Thanks for spending some time. And I pray and I hope that Brookside can be a part of bringing justice to a world that is so wrought with injustice. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.